Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We're ecstatically hearing the instructions. Caitanya Mahäprabhu to Rüpa Gosvämi. These are really ecstatic, section of Caitanya-caritämrta. I can't wait to get started again, so I'll start right in. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur praised the Caitanya-caritämrta with this poetic statement. He said, in due course, Mahäprabhu, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, because if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage. Because after it has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we're just beginning the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rüpa Gosvämi. We're starting with text 144. The unlimited living entities can be divided into two divisions, those that can move and those that cannot move. Among living entities that can move, there are birds, aquatics, and animals. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving clear instructions on how the living entities live under different conditions. There are trees, plants, and stones that cannot move, but still they must be considered living entities or spiritual sparks. The soul is present in bodies like those of trees, plants, and stones. They are all living entities. Among moving living entities, such as birds, aquatics, and animals, the same spiritual spark is there. As stated herein, there are living entities that can fly, swim, and walk. We must also conclude that there are living entities that can move within fire and ether. Living entities have different material bodies, composed of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The words Taramadye mean within this universe. The entire material universe is composed of 5 material elements. It is not true that living entities reside only within this planet and not within others. Such a conclusion is completely contradictory to the Vedas. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.24, Achedyoyam, Adayoyam, Aklesho, Shosha Evacha, Nityak Sarvakatak Stanur, Achaloyam, Sanatanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble. It can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. The soul has nothing to do with the material elements. Any material element can be cut to pieces, especially earth. As far as the living entity is concerned, however, he can be neither burned nor cut to pieces. He can therefore live within fire. We can conclude that there are also living entities within the sun. Why should living entities be denied this planet or that planet? According to the Vedas, the living entities can live anywhere and everywhere, on land, in water, in air, and in fire. Whatever the condition, the living entity is unchangeable, stanu. From the statements of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Bhagavad Gita, we are to conclude that living entities exist everywhere and throughout the universe, throughout the universes. They are distributed as trees, plants, aquatics, birds, human beings, and so on. 145. Although the living entities, known as human beings, are very small in quantity, that division may also still be further subdivided. For there are many uncultured human beings, like mlechas, pulindas, bauddhas, and shabaras. 146. Among human beings, those who are followers of the Vedic principles are considered civilized. Among these, almost half simply give lip service while committing all kinds of sinful activities against these principles. Such people do not care for the regulative principles. Purport. The word Veda, knowledge, means knowledge. Supreme knowledge consists of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and our relationship with Him, and acting according to that relationship. Action in accordance with the Vedic principles is called religion. Religion means following the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vedic principles are the injunctions given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Aryans are civilized human beings who have been following the Vedic principles since time immemorial. No one can trace out the history of the Vedic principles set forth so that man might understand the Supreme Being. Literature or knowledge that seeks the Supreme Being can be accepted as a bona fide religious system, but there are many different types of religious systems according to the place, the disciples, and the people's capacity to understand. The highest type of religious system is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 126 thus: Savai Pungsang Pado Dharmo Yato Bhaktir Adhoksaje. The highest form of religion is that by which one becomes fully conscious of the existence of God, including His form, name, qualities, pastimes, abode, and all pervasive features. When everything is completely known, that is the perfection of Vedic knowledge. The fulfillment of Vedic knowledge is systematic knowledge of the characteristics of God. This is confirmed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Vedaish chasarvar aham eva vedyaha. The aim of Vedic knowledge is to understand God. Therefore, those who are actually following Vedic knowledge and searching after God cannot commit sinful activities against the Supreme Lord's order. However, in this age of Kali, although men profess to belong to so many different kinds of religions, most of them commit sinful activities against the orders of the Vedic scriptures. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says herein, Veda nishida papa kore, dharma nahi gane. In this age, Men may profess a religion, but they actually do not follow the principles. Instead, they commit all kinds of sins. 147. Among the followers of Vedic knowledge, most are following the process of fruitive activity and distinguishing between good and bad work. Out of many such sincere fruitive actors, there may be one who is actually wise. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that the word karmanishta refers to one who aspires to enjoy the results of his good work and pious activity. Some followers of Vedic principles offer everything to the absolute truth and do not aspire to enjoy the results of their pious actions. These are also considered among the karmanishtas. Sometimes we see pious men earn money with great hardship and then spend the money for some pious cause by opening public charities, schools, and hospitals. Whether one earns money for himself or for the public benefit, he is called a karmanishta. Out of millions of karmanishtas, there may be one who is wise. Those who try to avoid fruitive activity and to become silent in order to merge into the spiritual existence of the absolute truth are generally known as jnanis, wise men. They are not interested in fruitive activity, but in merging into the Supreme. In either case, both the karmanishtas and the jnanis are interested in personal benefit. The karmis are directly interested in personal benefit within the material world, and the jnanis are interested in merging into the existence of the Supreme. The jnanis maintain that fruitive activity is imperfect. For them, perfection is the cessation of work and the merging into the Supreme existence. That is their goal in life. The jnani wants to extinguish the distinction between knowledge, the knower, and the aim of knowledge. This philosophy is called monism, or oneness, and is characterized by spiritual silence. Text 148. Out of many millions of such wise men, one may actually become liberated, mukta. And out of many millions of such liberated persons, a pure devotee of Lord Krishna is very difficult to find. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10:32, it is said that due to their poor fund of knowledge, the jnanis are not actually liberated. They simply think that they are liberated. The perfection of knowledge culminates when one comes to the platform of knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabhyate. The absolute truth, Satya Vastu, is described as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Knowledge of impersonal Brahman and the Supersoul is imperfect until one comes to the platform of knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is therefore clearly said in this verse, Koti Mukta Madhye Durlabha Eka Krishna Bhakta. Those who search after the knowledge of impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma are certainly accepted as liberated. But due to their imperfect knowledge, they are described in Srimad Bhagavatam as Vimukta Manina. Since their knowledge is imperfect, their conception of liberation is imperfect. Perfect knowledge is possible when one knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is supported by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 529. Bhoktadam yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richtiti. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Research is going on for the karmis, jnanis, and yogis, but until the search is complete, no one can attain peace. Therefore the Bhagavad Gita says, Yatva mam shantim richtiti. One can actually attain peace when he knows Krishna. This is described in the next verse, 149. Because a devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruity workers desire material enjoyment. Jnanis desire liberation. And yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they are all lusty and cannot be peaceful. The devotee of Lord Krishna has no desire other than serving Krishna. Even so-called liberated people are full of desires. Fruitive actors desire better living accommodations, and jnanis want to be one with the Supreme. Yogis desire material opulence, yogic perfections, and magic. All of these non-devotees are lusty, kami, because they desire something. They cannot have peace. The peace formula is given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, 529. Bhoktadam yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richtiti. One who simply understands that throughout the entire universe, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and beneficiary of all kinds of sacrifices, penances, and austerities, which should be performed only to attain his devotional service. That Krishna is the Supreme Being, and thus the proprietor of all the material worlds, and that Krishna is the only friend who can actually do good to all living entities, Suridam, Sarvabhutanam. One who understands these three principles about Krishna immediately becomes desireless, nishkama, and therefore peaceful. A Krishna Bhakta knows that his friend and protector in all respects is Krishna, who is able to do anything for his devotee. Krishna says, Kontiya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Since Krishna gives this assurance, the devotee lives in Krishna and has no desire for personal benefit. The background for the devotee is the all-good himself. Why should the devotee aspire for something good for himself? His only business is to please the Supreme by rendering as much service as possible. A Krishna Bhakta has no desire for his own personal benefit. He is completely protected by the Supreme. Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishwasa Palana. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that he is desireless because Krishna will give him protection in all circumstances. It's not that he expects any assistance from Krishna. He simply depends on Krishna, just as a child depends on his parents. The child does not know how to expect service from his parents, but he is always protected nevertheless. This is called nishkama, desirelessness. Although karmis, jnanis, and yogis fulfill their desires by performing various activities, they are never satisfied. A karmi may work very hard to acquire $1 million, but as soon as he gets $1 million, he desires another million. For the karmis, there is no end of desire. The more the karmi gets, the more he desires. The jnanis cannot be desireless because their intelligence is unsound. They want to merge into the Brahman effulgence. But even though they may be raised to that platform, they cannot be satisfied there. There are many jnanis, or sannyasis, who, after taking sannyas and giving up the world as false, return to the world to engage in politics or philanthropy or to open schools or hospitals. This means that they could not attain the real Brahman, Brahma Satyam. They have to come down to the material platform to engage in philanthropic activity. Thus they again cultivate desires, and when these desires are exhausted, they desire something different. Therefore, the jnani cannot be nishkama, desireless, nor can the yogis be desireless, for they desire yogic perfections in order to exhibit some magical feats and gain popularity. People gather around these yogis, and the yogis desire more and more adulation. Because they misuse their mystic power, they fall down again to the material platform. It is not possible for them to become nishkama, desireless. The conclusion is that only the devotees who are simply satisfied in serving the Lord can actually become desireless. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says here, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama. Since the Krishna Bhakta, the devotee of Krishna, is satisfied with Krishna, there is no possibility of fall down. Text 150. Muktanam apisiddhanam narayana parayana sidurlabha prashantatma kotishapi mahamune. O great sage, out of many millions of materially liberated people who are free from ignorance, and out of many millions of siddhas who have nearly attained perfection, there is hardly one pure devotee of Narayana. Only such a devotee is actually completely satisfied and peaceful. Purport. This verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 6:14-5. The Narayana Parayana, the devotee of Lord Narayana, is the only blissful person. One who becomes a Narayana Parayana is already liberated from material bondage. He already possesses all the perfections of yoga. Unless one comes to the platform of Narayana Parayana and passes over the platform of Bhukti Mukti Siddhi, he cannot be fully satisfied. That is the pure devotional stage. Anyabilashita shunyam jnana karma jnanavritam anukulyana krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One who desires nothing but Krishna and who is not influenced by the process of jnana marg, cultivation of knowledge, actually becomes free from ignorance. A first-class person is one who is not influenced by karma, fruitive activity, or yoga, mystic power. He simply depends on Krishna and is satisfied in his devotional service. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 6:17-28, Narayana padak sarve nat kutaschana bibyati. Such a person is never afraid of anything. For him, heaven and hell are the same. Not knowing the situation of a Narayana Parayana, rascals become envious. By the grace of Narayana, a devotee is situated in the most opulent position in the material world. Rascals are envious of Narayana and his devotee. But the devotee endeavors to please another devotee of Narayana, because he knows that by pleasing Narayana's representative, one directly pleases Lord Narayana. Therefore, a devotee offers the best comforts and facilities to his spiritual master. Outsiders who have no knowledge of Narayana are envious of both Narayana and his devotee. Consequently, when they see that Narayana's devotee is opulently situated, they become even more envious. But when the devotee of Narayana asks such foolish people to come live with him in the same comfortable situation, they do not agree, because they cannot give up illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling. Therefore, the materialist refuses the company of a Narayana Parayana, although he is envious of the devotee's material situation. In Western countries, when ordinary men, storekeepers, and workers are our devotees, see our devotees living and eating sumptuously, and yet not working, they become very eager to know where they get their money. I'll read that again. In Western countries, when ordinary men, storekeepers, and workers see our devotees living and eating sumptuously, and yet not working, they become very eager to know where they get the money. Such people become envious and ask, how is it possible to live so comfortably without working? How is it you have so many cars, bright faces, and nice clothes? Not knowing that Krishna looks after his devotees, such people become surprised and some become envious. 151. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. Purport. When we speak of Brahmanda, we refer to the whole universe, or to the cluster of many millions of universes. In all the universes, there are innumerable planets, and there are innumerable living entities upon those planets, in the air, on land, and in the water. There are millions and trillions of living entities everywhere, and they are engaged by Maya in suffering and enjoying the results of their fruitive activity, life after life. This is the position of the materially conditioned living entities. Out of many of these living entities, one who is actually fortunate, Bhagyavan, comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master by Krishna's mercy. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, and if one desires something, Krishna fulfills one's desire. If the living entity by chance or fortune comes in contact with the Krishna consciousness movement and wants to associate with that movement, Krishna, who is situated in everyone's heart, gives him the chance to meet a bona fide spiritual master. This is called Guru Krishna Prasad. Krishna is prepared to bestow his mercy upon all living entities. And as soon as a living entity desires the Lord's mercy, the Lord immediately gives him an opportunity to meet a bona fide spiritual master. Such a fortunate person is fortified by both Krishna and the spiritual master. He is helped from within by Krishna and from without by the spiritual master. Both are prepared to help the sincere living being become free from material bondage. How one can become this fortunate can be seen in the life of Srila Narada Muni. In his previous life, excuse me, how one can become this fortunate can be seen in the life of Srila Narada Muni. In his previous life, he was born of a maidservant. Although he was not born into a prestigious position, his mother was fortunately engaged in rendering service to some Vaishnavas. His mother was fortunate when these Vaishnavas were resting during the Chaturmasya period. The boy Narada took the opportunity to engage in their service. Taking compassion upon the boy, the Vaishnavas offered him the remnants of their food. By serving these Vaishnavas and obeying their orders, the boy became the object of their sympathy, and by the Vaishnavas' unknown mercy, he gradually became a pure devotee. In the next life, he was Narada Muni, the most exalted of Vaishnavas and the most important guru and acharya of Vaishnavas. Following in the footsteps of Narada Muni, this Krishna consciousness movement is rendering service to humanity by giving everyone a chance to come in contact with this movement. Then, by the grace of Krishna, one's life becomes successful. Everyone has dormant Krishna Bhakti, love for Krishna. And in the association of good devotees, that love is revealed. As stated in the Caitanya-caritämrta, Madhya 22, 107, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Uday Karaye Uday. Dormant devotional service to Krishna is within everyone. Simply by one's associating with devotees, hearing their good instructions, and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, dormant love for Krishna is awakened. In this way, one acquires the seed of devotional service. Guru Krishna Prasadi Poi, Bhakti Lata Bij. 152. Srila Prabhupada's expert description of the scope of devotional service and how to attain. 153. When a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually by the process of Shravana and Kirtana, hearing and chanting, the seed will begin to sprout. Purport. To live with devotees, or to live in a temple, means to associate with the Shravana Kirtana process. Sometimes neophyte devotees think that they can continue the Shravana Kirtana process without worshipping the deity. But the execution of such Shravana Kirtana is meant for highly developed devotees like Haridas Thakur, who engaged in the Shravana Kirtana process without worshipping the deity. However, one should not falsely imitate Haridas Thakur and abandon deity worship to try to engage solely in Shravana Kirtana. This is not possible for neophyte devotees. The word Guru Prasad indicates that the spiritual master is very merciful in bestowing the boon of devotional service upon the disciple. That is the best possible gift the spiritual master has to offer. Those with a background of pious life are eligible to receive life's supreme benefit, and to bestow this benefit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead sends His representative to impart His mercy. Endowed with the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master distributes the mercy to those who are elevated and pious. Thus the spiritual master trains his disciples to render devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Guru Kripa. It is Krishna Prasad, Krishna's mercy, that He sends a bona fide spiritual master to the deserving disciple. By the mercy of Krishna, one meets the bona fide spiritual master, and by the mercy of the spiritual master, the disciple is fully trained in the devotional service of the Lord. Bhakti Lata Bij means the seed of devotional service. Everything has an original cause or seed. For any idea, program, plan, or device, there is first of all the contemplation of the plan, and that is called the bij, or seed. The methods, rules, and regulations by which one is perfectly trained in devotional service constitute the Bhakti Lata Bij, or seed of devotional service. This Bhakti Lata Bij is received from the spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. Other seeds, called Anyabhilasha Bij, include Karma Bij and Jnana Bij. If one is not fortunate enough to receive the Bhakti Lata Bij from the spiritual master, he instead cultivates such seeds as Karma Bij, Jnana Bij, or political, social, or philanthropic bijas. However, the Bhakti Lata Bij is different from these other bijas. The Bhakti Lata Bij can be received only through the mercy of the spiritual master. Therefore, one has to satisfy the spiritual master to get the Bhakti Lata Bij. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasadaha. The Bhakti Lata Bij is the origin of devotional service. Unless one satisfies the spiritual master, he gets the bij, or root cause, of karma, jnana, and yoga, without the benefit of devotional service. But one who is faithful to his spiritual master gets the Bhakti Lata Bij. This Bhakti Lata Bij is received when one is initiated by the bona fide spiritual master. After receiving the spiritual master's mercy, one must repeat his instructions, and this is called Shravana, Kirtana, hearing and chanting. One who has not properly heard from the spiritual master, or who does not follow the regulated principles, is not fit for chanting, kirtan. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita 2:41. Vyabhasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. One who has not listened carefully to the instructions of the spiritual master is unfit for chanting or for preaching the cult of devotional service. One has to water the Bhakti Lata Bij by receiving instructions from the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions to Srila Rüpa Gosvämi. This last purport is especially important and deep, and we'll stop the reading here to give the devotees a chance to reflect on what they heard. Hare Krishna. Okay, Abhay Das Brahmachari is armed with the open mic to share it with everyone. Hare Krishna.
First is a comment from Gopakanya Devidasi.
Hare Krishna Gopakanya Devidasi.
She says, Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, all glories to Prabhupada.
Brian Phillips.
Hey, Bhakta Brian, let's hear it. Come on.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, ready and waiting for my daily dose of nectar. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Bhakta Brian. I pray that this COVID ends as soon as possible so that we can get together someday. Since I'm staying here now in the UK and I'm not so far away. I know you're very busy, but still, it would be wonderful to be able to see you face to face after so long. Hare Krishna.
From Krishna Premavati Devidasi.
Oh, Krishna Premavati, Haribol.
She says, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, and especially those relishing hearing Caitanya-caritämrta here with Maharaj once again.
Hare Krishna.
This is from Prashila Singh, whose initiated name I can't remember. I've heard it in a long time.
Priscilla Singh. Sounds familiar, huh?
I can't remember the name. But she says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Priscilla. Bhakti Priscilla.
Saloni Sachi Sundari says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, all glories to your divine service, all glories to the divine souls, listening to the nectar of Caitanya-caritämrta.
Hare Krishna. She's parroting Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Nice.
Rati Manjari says, Jai Guru Maharaj, bring on the heart-melting verses and uplift us.
They really are heart-melting. The basics of Krishna consciousness are so sweet. And they organize our minds perfectly so they can become completely peaceful. That's what I'm noticing when I'm reading these sections, especially. Where Lord Chaitanya is like, summarizing, what is pure devotional service. And what is opposite to devotional service. So nice. Hare Krishna.
A comment from Sudevi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Sudevi.
She says, Hare Krishna, what a wonderful reading. Today, more than other days, I am more focused. How fascinating to hear this truth that leaves no stones unturned. Every question or doubt answered in the most perfectly clear way.
Yes, that is a fact. That is a fact.
In your association, it makes it so much more pleasurable.
Oh, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Haribol.
You make my day.
Mercy of the Vaishnavas.
This is from Stefano.
Stefano.
Rampoldi from Italy. He commented yesterday.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Stefano, yes.
So there's a question. He's saying if one is not initiated, can he have the Bhakti Lata Beach?
No. But he can make spiritual advancement. Anybody who chants Hare Krishna innocently, without offense, can make advancement. But to actually attain to the goal of Krishna consciousness, then one must receive the holy name from the lips of the spiritual master through the process of initiation. Notice that in that last purport, which is a beautiful purport, one of my favorite purports of Prabhupada's books. It defines what the Bhakti-lata Bij is. And it is the instructions, methods, and instructions that the perfection of which gives one love of God. So those instructions are imparted by the spiritual master by verbal means into the receptive ears at the time of initiation. I don't know if you remember, but we haven't come to it yet, but in Madhya-lila, Haridas Thakur kind of comes in contact with Maya in a very interesting way. She comes personally to seduce him in the most beautiful female form in existence. And he, of course, passed the test, and nobody else could, not even Lord Brahma. So at the end of that test, she came 3 nights and proposing to him to have union with him. And he just said, well, I made this vow, to chant this mantra, so just let me finish my rounds and then we can enjoy. Then I'm free to enjoy. And 3 nights in a row, they went through this process of saying the same thing and her sitting and hearing him chanting. And at the end of it, she revealed her real form, her real name, her real identity. And he said, yeah, I know who you are. I just wanted to give you a chance to chant Hare Krishna. And she said, please, I want to become a devotee by pure Vaishnava also. Please initiate me. And then the initiation was when he told her to chant Hare Krishna. That was the initiation. The sound vibration from the pure devotee into the ear of the aspiring disciple. So they both have to be there. There has to be the pure sound that has come from a bona fide spiritual master, from his bona fide spiritual master, and so on. And Srila Prabhupada, we're so lucky that Srila Prabhupada was only 10 removed from Lord Chaitanya. In other words, after Lord Chaitanya, there were 10 what we call generations of devotees before Prabhupada heard. So that makes us 11, and it makes anyone who takes initiation from us the 12th. So we're hearing, myself, I've heard 11 persons removed from Chaitanya Mahäprabhu himself. So that's the process, that's the disciplic succession, where the sound comes from God himself to the ears and to the hearts of the devotees. So although it's true that the holy name is all powerful and pure, we don't require initiation in an absolute sense. We don't, because the holy name can deliver anyone love of God. But the other side of it is we have to be receptive. We have to be qualified ourselves to receive it. It's not exactly a mechanical process. You have a speaker and or a transmitter and a device to repeat what the signal is giving. But that requires a receiver that is tuned in properly, working properly. You may notice when you try to get a hi-fi signal, the FM stations especially, there's static, and then when you tune in into the actual wavelength, then you get a clear signal, and you can hear the sound just as if it was in the room, the instruments or the singer or whatever. So this is the process, and if one is fortunate enough to receive the process, then he gets that Bhakti-lata Bij, and rather than speculate or rather than change it and go for karma and jnana, and it just simply hears and repeats the spiritual master's orders and acts on them properly, then he gets the Bhakti-lata Bij. And by tending it like a gardener, like we just heard, then that creeper, that seed grows into a creeper of devotion. And then we have to garden it. We have to pull the weeds and water and protect it. And as we do that, then the plant grows, and we'll hear more about that tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
This is a question from Asha Lata Devidasi.
Acha.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. In the purport of 19:152, Srila Prabhupada says that we cannot engage in the process of Shravana Kirtan without performing deity worship. Later in the purport it says, if we follow our spiritual master's instructions, this is Shravana Kirtan. So does this mean that this is enough if we are not qualified for performing direct deity worship? Your servant.
Well, the holy name can give love of God itself, but that requires a liberated soul. If you're a liberated soul, then you don't need to do deity worship. But if you're not a liberated soul, that means you have a tendency towards fruitive activity in your heart and speculative tendencies, then the deity worship is required, absolutely required, to keep the heart pure and to purify the heart further. And in order to get to deity worship, you have to receive the sacred thread and the Gayatri mantra. And by chanting that mantra, or those mantras, there's a series of mantras, they purify the heart and bring the heart closer to the spiritual master and to Krishna. And then once chanting becomes pure and better. The holy name is always pure, but we're not pure. That's the problem. So therefore, Prabhupada says, there's a nice verse in purport, Madhya-lila, chapter 15, verse 108. Yes. And it's a very long purport. And there Srila Prabhupada describes with all scriptural evidence why it is that we need to do deity worship, especially in our condition in this Kali Yuga. Because if you follow the process of deity worship, you become by nature clean and regulated, and the senses become controlled, and one becomes peaceful enough to be able to go deeper into the chanting and the hearing and please Krishna. It's not a mechanical, formulaic process. But if you're like Haridas Thakur, he could just chant Hare Krishna, but he chanted Hare Krishna 300,000 times a day. That's 192 rounds every day without fail. So if you can do that, then you don't need to do deity worship. You can sit in one place and purify the world by your desire, because your desire will be completely pure. Hare Krishna. More?
This is something from Ferenc Attila.
Oh, Attila, yes, from Budapest, yes.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. How could I know how much bhakti I have?
How can you know how much bhakti you have? By the degree that you are distasteful, that sense gratification is distasteful for you. To the degree that sense gratification is distasteful, to that degree you know your love for Krishna is awakening. And there are more and more and more symptoms, but that's the first symptom. So the question demands that answer. Hare Krishna.
Something from Krishna Premavati Devi Dasi.
Yai.
She says, when I hear Caitanya-caritämrta, I really love it that the most essential knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are repeated again and again, so we can imbibe it more and more.
Yes.
And also there are so many references to other scriptures that we get the essence without actually going through all of them.
Exactly.
But some of the references are so nice that I want to also read the mentioned books like Govinda-lilamrita.
Wait. When Bhaktisiddhanta asked Bhaktivinoda Thakur if he could publish the Govinda-lilamrita, he said, yes, you can publish one volume for you. It's very intimate and not recommended for neophytes. But like you said, you get the essence in the Caitanya-caritämrta. It's all there. So first assimilate the Caitanya-caritämrta. Then you can think about reading Govinda-lilamrita. So with all of your permission, I will end the session now. It's almost 8:15 and we have something to do, and I have to do my exercises to be able to continue to recover from this major surgery I just went through. So I thank you so much, everyone, for your lovely appreciations and questions. They were particularly nice tonight, because this is the section of Caitanya-caritämrta that will bring out these very nice questions about the actual process of devotional service and how to achieve it, how to progress and advance in devotional service to the perfectional stage. And yes, it's also a fact that the Caitanya-caritämrta is certified by Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as the perfect Shastra, because it's in the verses themselves they give all the different varieties of scriptural evidence, and it fits it together perfectly so that one can understand everything. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta-vrinda ki jai. All glories to all the devotees of the Lord, and especially those who are listening every day to the Caitanya-caritämrta. They are glorious. Samaveda Bhakta-vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, see you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same subject. Hare Krishna.